This was the sheet that was used in the movie Fury with Brad Pitt. These were all ones that were requested as part of Operation Mincemeat.
Operation Mincemeat debuted on Netflix this week. It's a brand new World War II movie based on actual events starring Colin Firth. If you watch the trailer, you'll see some maps. As it turns out, those maps are from the Mills Library at McMaster University, and they're just the latest example of Hollywood approaching Mac in the hunt for on-screen authenticity.
We have about 120,000 different physical maps here.
Jason Broder, the Associate Director of Digital Scholarship Services at the university's library, telling us the maps here have also appeared in some other big-name productions, including Fury in 1917.
You know, what's up here is more of the modern day. In our archives and special collections downstairs, we have maps that date back to the 15th century. We've digitized as many of those as possible and made those available publicly.
These back here, these are kind of special, aren't they?
This is a set of maps that were smuggled out of France prior to the French Revolution.
He says the request for help finding a map for Operation Mincemeat came back in 2019.
And so they found this because it was digitized, because these were all made publicly available. And so they took the digital copies and they've enhanced them, printed them out, and those are what you see in the actual movie. So the two that we know are in the movie because we've seen them in the trailer are these two here.
When you see one of these maps in a movie, do you recognize it? Can you look and be like, oh yeah, there it is, there's my map?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. So I think they've, you know, in the trailer we've seen they've modified these maps as well. So the map of Sicily is like blown up, probably twice the size or 3 times the size. But there's probably other cases where our maps have been used in movies or in television shows or documentaries, and we don't even realize that it has been. He
says curating and growing the collection is a lot of work and describes it as rewarding to see it get out there for public use. As for why Hollywood finds this collection so appealing, he credits good decisions by those acquiring many of the maps back in the 60s and 70s.
I think the other piece of it is we were one of the first ones, at least in Canada, to start digitizing these maps and making them available publicly.
How did you end up with these maps?
Some of them would have been acquired through strategic purchases that were made. A lot of them were acquired from the collections that were developed by local citizens of the community who donated their collections to us. Sometimes we get donations from people within the community whose father or grandfather or great-grandfather served in the war.
As for whether more of these maps will find their way onto the big screen, Jason says likely yes.
A never-ending interest in telling stories from these times.
And he hints there's already another production in the works that made a similar request. But the details surrounding that are still top secret.
I expect in a year or two we're going to be able to talk about that story as well.
At McMaster University in Hamilton, David Zura, City News.